So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Day 13 of training camp is in the books, and the Lions' last official training camp practice before game one of the preseason is over. And today we're going to recap the day. We're going to go over the biggest moments, the biggest plays, the biggest standouts, and of course everything you need to know about day 13 of Detroit Lions training camp. So getting right on into it, we are going to start off with the positional battles. The Lions are facing a little bit of injury early on in the training camp period, and with that being the case, there are players being asked to step up, and there are being players who are asked to, play some higher roles, maybe play with the team above them, right? Play with the first string instead of the second, play with the second string instead of the third, play with the third string instead of the special teams in particular, right? There are players that are being asked to step up and asked to play larger roles than they otherwise would. And with that being the case, there are quite a few big positional battles already before the first preseason game has even been played. Now, the biggest one of these battles has to be within the linebacking core, as just about every single member of said linebacking core has taken reps, insignificant reps, mind you, with the first string defense. Everybody from Alex Anzalone and Derek Barnes to Jared Davis and Malcolm Rodriguez, and even Chris Board had quite a few reps with the first team defense as well. They have played a lot of different linebackers in those roles. They have played pretty much every linebacker on the roster has gotten some form of rep and some form of training with the first team defense and against the first team offense. And I think that really speaks to how competitive this room is and how really tight the race truly is for linebacker one. I think that every single linebacker in this room has the opportunity to make it to a starting caliber player in Detroit. And I do think that every single one of those linebackers, from Anzalone to Davis, to Board, to Rodriguez, to Derek Barnes, even Sean Dion Hamilton has an opportunity to be a starting linebacker in Detroit. And I think that, that competition is something that is both a good and a bad thing, right? Obviously, you don't have the star linebacker, but I think that there are going to be a lot of good role players. And I do think that throughout the preseason, and maybe even within a few weeks of the regular season, you could see the Detroit Lions playing multiple guys at that starting linebacker position, just trying to find who fits the best within this defense. But so far, Malcolm Rodriguez has been winning the battle. Malcolm Rodriguez, over the past couple of days, has been taking more and more reps with the first team defense every single practice. And if that trend continues, we could see Malcolm Rodriguez not only play a lot of snaps in the first game, but may even start as the inside linebacker for the Detroit Lions. Now, the wide receiver position is also a position that is having quite a bit of competition and having a few surprise standouts. With Quintez Cephas not quite back to practice yet, with Jameson Williams missing time still with his ACL tear, and Trinity Benson having missed the last two practices as well, there has been a lot of opportunity and a lot of snaps opened up to the healthy wide receivers. And one player that is taking extreme advantage of the opportunity is wide receiver Tom Kennedy. Tom Kennedy is a player that not a lot of people talk about, right? He's usually a preseason guy. He's usually a practice squad player. He's usually here for camp, and he's here throughout the season as a practice squad guy, but never really ends up on the roster, right? Even last year, in a very weakened year for the Lions wide receiving core, Tom Kennedy was not a featured member, and I don't even believe he caught a pass last season in the regular season for the Detroit Lions. But the wide receiving room already having 3 missing players from the early stages of camp, there are going to be opportunities for young guys to get that chance, and Tom Kennedy has been taking the biggest advantage of those chances, right? Come preseason week 1, come the Atlanta Falcons game, game in Ford Field, we are going to see, obviously St. Brown, we're going to see Reynolds, we're going to see Chark, but after those three, right, Jamal Williams is hurt. Jameson Williams is hurt. Quintez Cephas is hurt. Some of the backup guys and some of the depth on this team is starting to get more and more shallow by the day. So whereas we might not have originally thought that Tom Kennedy would get a lot of playing time, Tom Kennedy very well could be our 5 right now, right? Obviously, Clifford England's probably the 4 at this point, but Tom Kennedy could be the 5. Khalil Pimpleton could be the 5. Josh Johnson, the UDFA from Tulsa, could be the 6, right? We're going to see a lot of these younger guys and guys that are going to have the opportunity now to shine in the preseason, right? Their snaps aren't being taken away by Quintez Cephas. Their snaps aren't being taken away by Jameson Williams, and now they're not even being taken away from Trinity Benson. So with all this extra opportunity, there are going to be players that are going to stand out and get more opportunity in the preseason, and it seems like Tom Kennedy might be one of those players, and he was one of the standout wide receivers from today's practice. Now moving on to Jeff Okudah, another standout guy. Jeff Okudah has had a really good training camp so far, right? He came in off that Achilles injury. A lot of people were wondering, where was he in recovery? Where was he at his play? Is he going to play well? Is he finally going to have that season we all want him to have? And so far throughout training camp, Jeff Okudah has been very, very good. But in particular, the last 2 days, Jeff Okudah, by all accounts, has been lights out at cornerback, allowing just one completion, I believe, over the last 2 days, and that one completion coming on a very heavily contested ball. Jeff Okudah has been lights out. And as far as where he is with the injury concerns, as far as where he is on his road to recovery with his Achilles, today in practice, Jeff Okudah was clocked by a GPS of traveling at 21.6 miles per hour in training camp. I think it's safe to say that his recovery is very close to being over, and I think Jeff Okudah is very near 100% back on the field. So if he can stay healthy and can continue to improve from his training camp form, Jeff Okudah should be able to return to the Lions at top form and turn into a boundary cornerback that was worthy of the 3rd overall pick. Now, getting on to the moment of the training camp, right? Getting on to the biggest takeaway as a team overall, there was a competitive team period where the Detroit Lions offense was put in a very tough scenario. Down by 10 points with 3 minutes and 19 seconds left on the clock at their own 25. Now, after a very quick drive with multiple pass completions to DJ Chark, Josh Reynolds, and finally a long touchdown from Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Detroit Lions scored their first touchdown of this drill with 2 minutes and 19 seconds left on the board. Almost exactly 1 minute to drive down the field and score a touchdown. Now, they did fail to convert on the onside kick. However, they were given the ball back on their own 15 with 45 seconds to go. And after a really long completion to Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Lions offense was not able to sustain the drive. Rookie Aiden Hutchinson broke through the starting offensive line for a huge game-ending sack and showed up in a huge clutch moment for the defense. Now, there were a couple of big plays, and obviously the Lions offense did score that touchdown to get them within 3, but at the end of the day, the Lions defense stood incredibly strong. They had a few pass breakups, a few forced incomplete passes, and as I said, on one of the last plays of the period, Aiden Hutchinson broke through, got past the starting offensive line, and was able to get essentially a game-ending sack, winning the period for the Detroit Lions defense. And overall, Aiden Hutchinson has done this a lot throughout camp, right? In these competitive team drills, in these high-stakes scenarios, right? 2-minute drills or down by 10 with 3 minutes or whatever the case may be, in these high-pressure clutch scenarios, Aiden Hutchinson has been very good throughout camp. It wasn't just today. It wasn't just yesterday. Ever since he got to Detroit Lions training camp, Aiden Hutchinson has shown up in those big moments. He has shown up in competitive team periods, and he is kind of that guy that is the game ender, right? And that's what the Lions struggled to do last year. The Lions had multiple games where they were up by a touchdown, they were up by a field goal, or they were up by a couple of points with very limited time left for the opposing offense to do something, and they couldn't stand their ground. They couldn't stand strong, right? In that last drive versus Baltimore, they were up by 2. There was a minute 19, something like that left with very few timeouts, very few opportunities left for the Baltimore Ravens, and they couldn't finish the game. The defense couldn't get that last pressure. The defense couldn't get that last sack. They couldn't put Lamar Jackson on the ground. They complete a big pass. Justin Tucker hits a game-winning field goal, right? The week after that, Going into Minnesota, they score with 17 seconds left on the clock. 17 seconds. And all they have to do is get one stop. All they have to do is get one sack, one turnover, one takeaway, or stand strong and hold, hold 20, 30 yards of defense and 30 yards of ground for 17 seconds. And they just couldn't get to the quarterback. They couldn't contest those passes. They couldn't get the ball on the ground. And they ended up, again, losing as the Vikings drove a good 30 yards in 10 seconds, again, to hit the game-winning field goal. On the Thanksgiving game versus Chicago, right, they were up by 2 points with a minute left, and all the Bears had to do was drive down the field and score a field goal, and all the Lions had to do was stop the Chicago Bears. But the defense couldn't get pressure. The defense couldn't get through. They couldn't push the offense back, and they couldn't stand their ground for the remainder of that game. Aiden Hutchinson seems to be changing that mantra. Aiden Hutchinson seems to be changing how the Lions defense performs in late game situations, and he is starting to emerge as that clutch player that when you need a play to happen, when you need a big play in the biggest moment, 97 seems to come through more than anybody. So with that being said, those are the biggest takeaways from training camp. Those are the biggest standouts. And that is everything you need to know about day 13 of Detroit Lions training camp. We'll be back tomorrow with some pregame predictions and, of course, the players to watch going in to Lions week 1. But with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions!